Panel, right now in the status quo, the way that religions operate is that they allow the two narratives that we are arguing from today's debate to coexist. I.e., you are going to get the benefits in the real world if you believe in the religion, or i.e., you are going to get rewards in the afterlife if you actually believe in this particular religion. In today's debate, both sides have to pick one and stick strictly to that particular narrative that they are going to push. The second thing I also want to point out is that today's debate is not a regret motion, which therefore means that there is no obligation on us to argue a counterfactual in how the world would actually look like, in the ways in which religion wouldn't have existed if you don't allow that particular narrative that you are professing on our side to exist. Thirdly, and this is really, really important, remember this throughout your deliberation, it's a preferred motion, which therefore means that you are trying to look at the way the world would have been in the beginning of time and humanity if this particular narrative was what was used to operate and was used to push the idea of religion. The reason why this is important is that historically, the advancement of society and the advancement of knowledge, secularism and the creation of the nation state oftentimes means that religions are diametrically opposed to the interests of most people, and they have less of an incentive to be religious, and therefore religions in general have less impact, and that is what we are seeing in the status quo in places like France, where individuals are not allowed to be able to express themselves because religion does not have a hold in these particular communities, in these particular societies. What this therefore means that in order for you to win, you have to be able to point out a world where religions become paramount, increasingly important, and in spite of advancements, individuals still maintain their moral beliefs and are still religious and are still loyal and faithful to that particular religion. The next thing I also want to point out, right, is that the idea of mundane benefits is principally inconsistent. And what do I mean by that? The idea that if you believe the religion, it's either you're going to be rich. If you believe the religion, it's either you're going to be more healthy because God is going to bless you in the road life. It's something that is principally inconsistent with the very conception of what a religion is. And here's why. The idea of a God or a deity is not something that most people can actually see. You cannot touch God, you cannot see him, you cannot smell him. What this therefore means is that the only reason why people believe in religion, and the only reason why religion is important, is the ability of the religion to allow people to still be religious. What this therefore means is that the world of belief, in a world where you create, or in a world where the narrative creates the perception that the only reason to believe in that particular deity, which is ephemeral, that particular deity that you can't touch, is by getting benefits that you can touch, is therefore a world that is in itself principally and morally inconsistent, and therefore it's an illegitimate world. Given that you are trying to reconceptualize what the world would have looked like, it means that if that particular world actually existed on the upside, it's a principally illegitimate world, and therefore our side is preferably much better because it's much more principally consistent with the very conception of what a true religion should actually look like. In our world, what we are saying is that the benefit that you're going to get in the afterlife will include things like eternal life, which means that you're not going to face physical or worldly pain, i.e. depression, i.e. anxiety. You don't even have to shit, and the fact that you can benefit from all of these particular things. What is the nature of religions therefore? Two things. First, they exist to be able to push social narratives that are acceptable and that are in line with what that particular religion wants to see. What this therefore means that the religions must maintain their supremacy in terms of that particular world order they actually exist in, and it must exist in perpetuity. Secondly, most religions exist to be able to maintain their belief in that particular religion in two key respects. Firstly, it means that most people must consistently be loyal to that particular religion, and if you are not going to be able to argue that the narrative allows this to happen, we win. But secondly, you should also be able to allow more people to have a desire to join that particular religion. The reason why this is true is because I've already argued to you that secularism and the advancement of human knowledge and human experience oftentimes means that people are more likely to question the very idea of religion, which therefore means that if now technology, the fact that if I go to the hospital, I will not be sick, means that people are not going to believe that I should pray to God and that God will be able to make me better in the afterlife. This is really, really important because it means that if now people can find alternatives to religion in the form of science, in the form of technology, because I don't need to believe in God to make me rich, I can actually invest in the real world, or I don't need to be able to believe in God because I'm going to get the benefits in the afterlife because I'm going to get it right now, reduces that incentive and that belief and loyalty that is incredibly important. Comparatively, because this is a preferred religion, I can't only argue the other side. Our side allows people to still be religious. Why is this important? Firstly, because the reason why our side is better is because it uses the faith mechanism. These guys are going to say it is bad because it allows people to still maintain their religious beliefs irrespective of the circumstances of the world. This is why it is still justified and actually is incredibly important. First, because it means that religions become and maintain or still are relevant because they believe in that particular religion goes beyond simply physical pain and physical benefits and incredibly important because in the world, advancement of technology and advancement in human knowledge and human science would exist. They need to be able to justify why religions would still maintain that supremacy in that world. What is the impact of this? Because I've been arguing a lot of theoretical stuff. Firstly, it allows religions to be able to push pro-religious ideas. And the reason why this is important is because if you take countries like France, if you take countries that are largely secular, the reason why most people cannot actually actualize themselves in the belief of their own identity and say that because I'm a Muslim, I need to be able to wear a hijab like the judge that is sitting right in front of me is because of the idea that religion doesn't actually matter before that close to prayer.
So at the end of
hurry up.
So at the end of the day, we still show you that the reason why the world is evolving is the reason why religion needs to co-opt.
No. So you see, that's the reason why they lose. Because if religion has to co-opt to the world, it means that the world precedes that religion, and people would see the benefits of the world as being important, and therefore the religion will lose that particular impact and that's relevance in the society. The next case I want to argue is the idea of the world has abandoned me narrative, and that is what is most likely going to exist in their world. How is this true? Firstly, because of the advancement of technology. The only reason why people in the past were more likely to be religious, even in places like Iran and Saudi Arabia, the number of people who are destroying their religious belief in Islam, etc., is rising because now they have technology that can actually replace their own religion. What that means is that for the kinds of individuals that are less likely to be able to access the benefits of the world due to the several structural reasons that exist in the world, i.e. you are going to be poor, i.e. you are more likely to be born in a minority group, i.e. you live in a very oppressive government, in a very oppressive state, therefore means that most people are going to internalize the idea that their gods have abandoned them and they have no reason to therefore believe in religion. Our side allows this to happen. Thirdly, the idea of principled behaviors and the reason why human beings should still be morally good even if they don't get benefits. What their side does is that it says that the world should operate on a quid pro quo basis. If I get benefits, I do what is right. If I don't do what is right. Our side says, do always what is right because in the afterlife we are going to repay you for specifically that, and that's the reason why we win. Human beings will not be corrupt on our side because they know that even if I'm suffering because I'm not plagiarizing, I'm suffering because I'm not stealing from the government, I'm going to live an eternal life which is much more principally valuable to me as opposed to the word of quid pro quo. For all of those reasons, vote opening government.
I'll be starting in 3, 2, 1. First line you get from opening government is to say we don't think religion is premised on the idea of beliefs. What is premised on is to say there is a God. So when you give people the ideas that, well, they necessarily have to get an outcome before they say this religion inherently is good, then that becomes illegitimate. So when we promise people outcomes, that is bad. That is very false for a simple reason. We think that what religion does is simply to pick one belief and say that is the best form of belief, think and go by those standards. But understand that in natural world, there are multiple beliefs that exist there. It means rational people can think and say there are multiple beliefs. Why are you telling me to stick to this one and not marry more than one? The only time a rational person will be convinced is when you prove to them that there is some intrinsic benefit that following those beliefs is one that you get. It tells you the entire premise you get from these guys is false. Even the impact that they do is one that is out of this debate. But they say we should argue a world that looks like one where religion did not exist in the status quo. We think that even if religion did not exist in the status quo, a world before that would still have led to this. Why? Because the reason why we are here today is not because of the existence of religion or the kind of world we have today. It's not because of religion, but it's simply because of the inherent desire of human beings, regardless of religion, to understand nature. That is why men began to pursue things like science, pursue things like physics, pursue things like maths, and that is what has led to the entire fabrication of societal structures, architecture, physics, aerospace, and all those things. It tells you that even today's world is one that we can set as a reference to engaging our world in today's debate. But panel, not simply in today's debate. Why should you buy into our world, and why is religion losing grounds in the status quo, and especially on this guy's world, right? We think that previously, if people wanted to know whether it will rain and so they should plant seeds, what they'll do is simply go to this religious and tell them, Charlie, God said it will rain. If he says yes, they plant. If he says no, they don't plant. If someone is dying, they go to this religious place and tell them, can you heal this person? They say yes. If they can't, they lose hope. But in today's world, but even in those historical times, it tells you that religion was largely a dictator of things in agri, health, and even social systems. In today's world, even a religious leader does not pray for their kids. They send the child to the doctor first before they pray to God. That tells you the world today is one that has largely left the relevance of religion in its ability to explain things that social systems cannot explain. That tells you then that the world we live in, or the world we would have otherwise even created, which these guys said we should defend, is one where people would have still met the realization that we can explain things by science, we can explain things by understanding nature. Why is our world then better? Let me make this case first. It tells you that first of all, the kind of people that will live in a world we should be arguing are largely people who are going to be very materialistic. Why is this true? Simply because these guys want to focus on the outcomes that social structures pose to them before they can make credible decisions. And that is why if locusts plague someone's farm in a war that we are defending, we don't think they'll go and call the religious leaders to come and ask them, why are locusts in our farms? What they'll do is to take to scientists to explain those things. What that tells you is that the only time religion can still maintain its ideals of spirituality and be relevant is when they align with those narratives that people believe in, i.e. materialism and physical assets that endure or happen in status quo. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, but see, your case needs to argue how it is religion that gives you all the physical gains. What you are saying is that science gives you all the physical gains.
You see, I don't need to prove to you that religion will give you those things. I can show you that religion can ensure the existence of those things, and that is what I'll do in my work. Right? First of all, in the world we are arguing where people are highly materialistic, in worlds where people are pursuing science, physics, architecture, and all of those things, realize that governmental systems are those that erupt from those cases when necessarily people appoint people into power to defend their rights, and they create rights and create laws. It tells you that a lot of times these religious institutions are closely related to those governmental institutions. But let me explain. If in Iran today there is an economic crisis, the supreme leader of Iran will not turn to the Quran and say, what does the Quran say about this economic policy? Let me craft a policy. What he does is to take to social structures like economics. When he gets the policy there, he goes and crafts it back to the Iran people and say, you know what Allah says? We should pay more taxes. And that is how necessarily they convince people to pay taxes in realistic worlds. That tells you then that if religion has this close power to these governmental structures that we are defending, it is easier for religion to promise people materialistic things because they have a hand in the existence of those governmental structures. So we say, even if religion directly does not give these guys those benefits, they can ensure through these governmental structures that these governmental structures, one, set policies that ensure the survival of their states and give them those benefits anyways. But secondly, I'm going to prove to you how religion will give them these things directly. Every single religion is one that necessarily grew because of money. People have to donate. People have to give them stuff to be able to survive, to expand their territories, preach out these things. People have to give Jesus Christ bread or whatever. At least he even had one before he multiplied it. People have to give them those physical things. What it tells you is that religion in itself has located itself as the number one creator of wealth. It collects wealth from people in order to sustain itself and expand its territories. We think that it even dawns on religion to be a legitimate actor to redistribute these wealth to affect the exact claims that it is standing there for. And that is why in status quo you have churches like the Presbyterian Church building hospitals, building schools, and even building prisons. Why is this even better in our world? We think in a world where people necessarily are interested in what affects their life directly, it is even more legitimate for religions to ensure that they have systems that ensure their survival. That is even a very better thing that you get in our world. We said today, one of note, they say, oh, what have I proved to you in today's debate? First of all, I've shown you how the entire premise on which the analysis from OG comes into this debate is one that is false. To say that we cannot prove any form of benefits from our world because religion should not be promising outcomes. We say that is false simply because in itself of the creation of that religion, it simply picked one belief. The only time you can get people to buy into that is when you show them why that particular belief gives them better outcomes than the other. Because I think that if I marry 3 women, I necessarily can have enough fun with all those 3 women. Why should you tell me to just marry one? Simply because you have to tell me the benefits I will get. That is the word we defend. We don't think it is illegitimate in any way. But we say the word that we still would defend is a word where governmental structures have evolved. We think religion should align itself with these systems to be able to stay relevant. Proudly opening opposition.
Thank you very much.
Am I audible? Let me know when you're ready, please. Are you ready? Panel, OO is fourth in this debate for a couple of reasons. We recognize the going to engage us. We can't upload a new frame and a new characterization in this debate because we can't respond to it. If I hate doing this, but page 28, page 29 of the GUDC manual, you can go and look at it. In the prefers motion, where what we are discussing is not what is status quo as opposed to the new world. Each side has to reimagine the world as though what they are suggesting is what the debate, the world will look like from its inception. Fattaw already tells you that in status quo, most religions try to ask people to believe in good. So you're going to get the fiscal rewards and then you're going to get eternal life. In this debate, there's a clear difference. One side is saying we prefer a world where religion from the onset said it is only eternal benefits. The other side says it is a world where we told people that are going to get material benefits. And this is something that they need to engage. A couple of things I want you to recognize, questions I want you to ask yourself before you judge this round, is to ask yourself, in a world where it is material benefits that they preach, and all of these things that they say they are going to get in person, is what they preach. Then, in a world where something else that is capable of giving people the same thing arrives, what then happens to all the things that they say? At the end of the day, religion doesn't get that value, it doesn't get that backing. More responses on the things that they say in this particular debate. They can't be the side that agrees the government and science. Because in this debate, government and science will still exist and it can exist outside religion and besides religion. Think about it. As we moved on as a unit or as a species, people have consistently asked us to consistently separate the state from religion. So it could have equally happened. So what that then means is that in their world, as soon as that separation happened, religion then dies. That is why Fattaw's argumentation on how religion must exist beyond advancement is extremely important. But secondly, notice that in terms of science, philosophy, all these things that are abstract or actually material, they are all competing for the attention of individuals. What that then means is that you need to have a unique, exclusive benefit that allows individuals to buy into your ideals and your belief systems, because at the end of the day, someone else is trying to get the same group of people that you are getting to push a particular ideology or belief to them. So what that means is that in most instances, for one particular ideology, like philosophy, to be able to contend with religion, it preaches directly opposite ideologies. So for example, Plato, Socrates, and their consistent backlash against religion, on how they develop common theory or they believe in God makes absolutely no sense. You cannot just then say in this debate that we are going to marry all of these things together. OO takes a fourth. Moving on to my argumentation in this particular debate. Religion in itself is abstract,
And that is what Fattaw tells you. What that means is that in principle, we can't dilute the idea of religion with things that are not abstract. Insofar as the burden on individuals logically is to go beyond what is logical and to believe in an abstract idea, you cannot then just place a burden on that same group of people to then also cross a logical barrier and head over and say this abstract idea is equally responsible for material things. What happens in this instance is a couple of things. One, you create several confusions in indoctrination, because what then happens is that doctrines then become static, because at the end of the day, people are actually confused and can't begin to fathom what you're actually saying. But secondly, what then happens is that you create cognitive dissonance among the believers of the religion themselves, because they are consistently conflicting whether they should be living in the present, which is the material world, or they should be living that conversation or that idea of an eternal life and the spirituality that is embedded heavily in religion. Before that, I think a PY from closing opposition.
So at the end of the day, both sides still get people to do what is right, because those are the tenets of the religion.
No, but you get the point. Like, we are trying to explain to you how you don't just get your small group of people to do what is right at a particular point, which does not cause certain advancement. Because all the argumentation you get from Ogo in this debate is that religion was used to heal people in the past. Yeah, but now like operation exists. There are so many like artificial intelligence, robots, etc. In the world where we are going towards artificial intelligence, if an IA exists that can do all the things that religion talks about, there's absolutely no need for you to consistently continue to believe in religion. And that is the point. Continuing to give people the idea that religion is based on the metaphysical. Moving on to another argumentation that is important. Minorities and how this impacts them. A couple of things on that. First off, recognize that in both worlds, nobody is going to be born with the benefits, so they have to actively work for these benefits. What that means is that the lottery of birth will exist. People will be born into oppression, and people will consistently be born into places that are not good. What that then means is that you create a higher hurdle for these particular individuals who are minorities to believe in a God that puts them in this position to begin with. What then happens is that in most instances, these minorities who probably need religion more to not fight back, be violent, etc. in instances of oppression, and to be morally upright regardless of how cruel the world has been to them, are not going to be the ones that believe in religion, because at the end of the day, it is going to be a tool for the oppressors who believe in religion, because we are the ones that are rich and we are the ones that benefit from what exists in society. This is an important argument that all the sides in this debate have to engage. Finally, panel, recognize that at the end of this particular debate, you create an expensive problem for religion. Recognize how expensive it is for religion to operate in most instances, and recognize how that is one of the biggest critiques of religion consistently, that there are so many things that will be happening in the world, but people that are poor and broke are consistently paying huge amounts of money to these particular religions. Because you have promised a conception of riches and a conception of luxury, you need to maintain that standard across time and consistently continue to project that particular image. What that then means is that you're going to have to then take money from people consistently, but even if you don't buy that particular impact, it means that in instances where you can't project that particular luxury, you are unable to push the ideology of religion or be able to propagate your words. So what that means is that poor people cannot go on evangelism, because at the end of the day, you don't look like what you're about to talk about. Recognize all the arguments that opening government provides in this particular debate, and recognize how Ogo hasn't engaged with any of them. At the end of the day, Fattaw and I are the only side that engages what the debate is, promises a world where religion continues to exist beyond advancement, because if something comes out and all of a sudden this particular thing clears out all the benefits that you talk about in the world, religion will not be something that people will believe in anymore. But finally, panel, recognize that we are the only side that ensures that even minorities, people who are born in abject poverty, have a reason to curse the Lord, will consistently continue to believe in religion. Thank you very much.
Chair, by the way, there was an announcement earlier on about please and laptops. I'm about to take my laptop out. I'm done speaking. Start with you. Okay.
Wow. We're watching the stream and will hear my brilliant case.
Starting in 3, 2, 1. I think the very fact that the latter part of the motion says, with both outcomes contingent on faithful practice, means that in both worlds, you're going to have people practicing what they preach. The job in this debate on both sides is to probably one over here question which kinds of practice aligning with what belief will be good for the people. So all the fancy argument from OG about how at a point in time in our world, religion will die off, like etc, blah blah blah. It's just not coherent with a preference motion. But then direct engagement to what we get from OG, right? Especially the DPM. Like the fancy thing he says that, oh look, in all religion will die because at a point in time other things will be able to provide the thing that religion preaches. We don't think that will happen. Because for the fact that the motion fears that that is contingent on people practicing, and it means people will still be religious, but they will be getting those material things anyways, alongside the tenets that religion preaches. So if we preach almsgiving, if we preach monogamy, if we preach fasting on Ramadan, etc., people will do all of those things in accordance to get all of those material things. In our world, it's unreasonable to explain that people want to work. On both sides, people will go to work, people will get doctorate degrees. So if people have doctorates, they have doctorate degrees and working, and they are making millions of dollars in a year, the argument cannot be that because they are getting the money from a job elsewhere, that religion is not what gives them the money. I think people can reason beyond that to say, believe in God is what gives that money, right? It's the moral actions that matches with it. But then the second argument you get is one that says, oh look, their belief in an afterlife is one that is unquestionable, so it will forever remain. A simple rebuttal to that is, look, if in both worlds, science would have advanced anyway, like in your world when science advances, and people question things, because science means empirical evidence. So if people can't see the afterlife, then that basically means they lose faith in the afterlife also, because with science, they can't prove the afterlife. So in your world, religion will probably also die. You see, it's making an opening house messy. So I don't want people to come and say, but now opening house is messy because we're saying religion will die. Religion won't die on both sides, right? But then you have to argue how best the world would have been if religion probably started with one form of narrative. First extension we are going to get from you is one that says, look, in this guy's world, religion erodes autonomy. Why is this very crucial? I'm coming. Because we think autonomy is the metric by which you can take every other action. Religion with a promise of reward in the afterlife is one that comes with a matching promise of hell and punishment. The very fact that you have an afterlife that will reward you means oftentimes it's dual. It's that you get the rewards in heaven or you don't get it. Then you go to hell and you're punished. What this does is that such a religion weaponizes the concept of afterlife to exploit the fear of individuals to get them to do things that religion dictates. For example, people can fast for so long and they'll get ulcer and they wouldn't question it because they want to get the rewards in the afterlife, and their fear of hell is what keeps them doing all of those things. Why do you have more autonomy in our world when people buy religion in our world? Because in our world there is an opt-out, pretty much because look, we are promising you that if you stay true to doing all of these things, you will get material gains. So if you do these things and you don't get the material gains, people probably might want to, question those things, and it leads to human advancement, blah blah blah, etc. But in this guy's world, you don't hamper down on people's autonomy, because people need to be able to question those things and take reasonable, rational actions, right? That means our world is good for humanity as a whole. You don't scare people with things they cannot see. You don't get them to do all sorts of harmful things, right?
Okay, so the conversation about punishment and reward is symmetrical at best, because at the end of the day, you're also telling people that if you don't worship God, you're going to die because you're not going to get that healing. You're not going to get that money that you just don't get the reward.
Say in our world, if you don't worship God, you don't get the material things. Like, look, if you think that is punishment, your side has worse punishment. Because fear is a biological hormone that people cannot control. In our world, at least, even if people are not going to be religious, they might have, very contested argument to say, I'll go and work anyways. I don't want to be holy. I'll go and work 5 jobs. I want to live my life better, etc. Blah blah blah. You telling them they'll burn in hell for eternity is something that just goes to autonomy completely. But the second argumentation and extension is one that talks about exploitation. I was so happy when Elisha mentioned exploitation in minority oppression, right? Because we think oftentimes, right, in our world, if people don't see the material promises happening, then they have a disincentive to stay, which means they will leave. But then they will stay in our world because of Jonathan arguments. That shows you that we would have an incentive to try to use those mass like the words that mass, redistribute all of them to make the world better. But what this looks like in these guys' words that look, we are going to use coercive and exploitative power to take the monies from the poor people, and when there is no redistribution, you can't question, because your reward as a poor man is in hell, walking on streets of gold, etc. Like, there is no incentive for you to question your standard of living in the status quo. We think religion is something that should better people's life. There should be things that elevate people. There should not be things that subject people to suffering on their mere 70, 75 years on this earth and give them a fasting afterlife they cannot see and they cannot prove. In our world, exploitation of minorities is going to be less. Why is this minority segment so truly important? Because if you question how religion started, right, you get the idea that over time they had to do crusades, etc. The Catholic Church had to do baronies, etc. Farms, all of those things. That means they have a very high potential of wealth amassing.
In your world, is it possible for individuals who follow religion still do not work to get all those material gains?
I think in both sides, atheists would exist anyways. So you cannot see the existence of atheists getting money as well as going to threaten this religion in our world, right? Can simply not be true. The third extension is one that tells you about better religious unification. In our world, in the status quo, you have blah blah blah, Muslims fighting Christians, etc. Muslims fighting themselves, etc. I think the reason why they do that is because they have an imperative moral obligation to save your soul from eternal damnation. When they see somebody practicing something different, for example, when a Christian sees a Muslim marry 4 wives or 5 wives, they are troubled and they think they have to save such a person, or such a person is inherently doomed because that 4 wives is going to land you in hell. In our world where there's no concept of heaven or hell, it's basically based on what you are going to get here. That means better religious unification, because people practicing different religious tenets are not going to look down on each other because they think somebody is inherently not worth a human because they're going to end in hell. Because you look through the Bible and you find verses that says, what good does it do a rich man if you do everything you lose your soul, you go to hell, you are foolish. Those kinds of verses are things that will just pack people to fight with each other because of the damnation we don't get, right? We think in our world, religion is going to thrive regardless, right? But we make sure people maximize autonomy because there's nobody coercing them with eternal damnation. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Now, before I start my speech, given that this time I'm sure that this is my very last preliminary round in GUDC, I think it's only right that never know I will graduate. I think it's only right that I dedicate this to KDS generally, because if it wasn't for them, I probably wouldn't have graduated because I'd have still lost my data collection. So yeah, this one's for you guys. When you watch the stream. So I'm starting my speech in X, Y, Z. Now, given that this is not an ACTA debate, it means that every single stakeholder's interest can be weighed in today's debate. We'll show you the benefits of 3 stakeholders who are all as important. 1, religion itself. 2, the adherents of religion. And 3, the world at large. We are going to fulfill Michael Jackson's dream of making the world a better place. But realize that today's debate didn't just start today. There was Pascal Blaise, who philosophized that there is a wager that is made when considering whether to opt into religion or not. We edited that philosophy from our side in closing government, and we'll show you why that is why we win today's debate. Our cases are very, very novel. We didn't hear anything of that sort from any side of the open out. You are going to listen to it and enjoy why it is right. The engagement is going to come from Franco because this case is really, really robust. First thing you need to understand, we think that on both sides of the house, everybody is promising a certain reward. These guys say, we are going to give you the afterlife. These guys say, we are going to give you material rewards in status quo. What that means is that we need to recognize that in the pursuit of competing gains, people prioritize the highest of gains that they can maximize. So which gains gives you a higher happiness or a broader level of actualization? Recognize that we think the afterlife gives a broader level of actualization as opposed to material gains because of three things. One, we think that death is a sure thing that individuals know would happen because it is out of your control. You know you will die. You know that eventually your time on earth will be cut short. Two, life and the events within it are controllable by human beings through our will and action. So even if I don't worship God and I work hard, common sense, I would still eat. I would still get money. If I farm as an atheist, I will still get money. So that means that my action can still get me all the gains of material effort without a God. But then recognize that the gains you get from an afterlife are an infinite reward as opposed to material gains. Why? Three reasons. One, the belief is that the afterlife is endless. There is no end to it. At best, you live for 100 years. So the amount of gains you can accrue is finite. We can calculate it. We can do that because the amount of years are finite. But because the afterlife is infinite and endless, you cannot calculate the amount of gains you can accrue in that well. Pascal's wager. Second level of engagement. We think that the belief of the afterlife or the kind of afterlife that is usually preached by religion, if you adhere to them, is one that is equitable. So all the evils that go on earth will not happen to you in heaven. So people would want to prioritize those things because they know that they don't have to deal with their shitty boyfriends when they are in heaven. They know that all they would have is a happy life walking on the streets of gold. That's a greater reward that you give than these guys. Thirdly, we think it promises a blissful life of plenty. We think that that bliss that it particularly gives you is something that gives you an internal satisfaction. There is no mental, psychological trauma you deal with. What is the impact of this argument? It means that due to the fact that there are more gains because of all the analysis I give to you on our side, in our world, we gain more adherents for religion and religious institutions in our world because people are more willing to get something that has broad impact as opposed to something that has a finite measurable impact. Second impact, we think that religion does not promise things it cannot give. Why do we say so? In their world, as I said, whether or not I worship God, when I till the air and I put in a seed, when rain falls, it will grow. What that means is that the natural order of earth remains the same. So they still can get all those gains in their world without religion. Yeah. When you give them something that they can get without religion, they will not want to be constrained by religion. Because again, religion tells you that there are certain things you need to do for it to be considered religious and get all these gains. If they realize they can get these gains without religion, they will not do those things. They will not do those constraints like be nice people, be good people, and not like particularly harm and cheat on their girlfriends. Yeah. But then we think that we give religious adherents a better world or a better option to opt into if indeed they opt into religion. We think that this is a world that's better off. Second level of analysis. Yeah. We think that we need to equally analyze how this is good for the world at large. What does this mean? We think that things like capitalism, oppression, gentrification, and all those bad things, they all exist because people get gains off of it. This is not the same as what these guys argue. These guys argue minorities. They all get gains off of it. Because these people get gains off of bad practices that religion tells them they should stop. They will not stop because they get gains. There are material rewards that the same religion is telling them that I will give you. They get it from being bad people. Why is this important? It means that in Ops world, since people can get what religion is giving them without religion, they have no reason to be religious and they have no reason to be good people. They can still kill and destroy and still get away with it with making a lot of money. But more importantly, why is our world better on the comparative? Because the first motion, the comparative debate. Our world makes people do
going to get better gains. But realize the reason why our case makes sense and is winning is equally because of the analysis that these guys give you. Science truly exists. So science can explain and show you how to get things without religion being there. So it means that scientifically, I can still get all the gains that religion promises me that I'll get in their world. In our world, nobody knows what the afterlife is. People speculate there is no afterlife. But because there is an uncertainty, individuals want a certain level of certainty that I will live an afterlife that is great and blissful and better than what I have on earth. What's the impact? Two things. One, more people will do good in our world because they want to go to heaven. So we can finally have people obeying rules and obeying laws because the Bible says so. And when they do that, they go to heaven. And that's why that part of the motion that says that as long as they are faithful to the religious doctrines is important because nobody talks about it. We think that what that means then is that we have a large amount of individuals who are do-gooders. But secondly, the immeasurability of whether or not like I've done enough good makes it more pressing for them to continue doing good because they want to continue reaffirming their heavenly status. In our world, we give you a better world, we give you more adherence for religion, which makes religious institutions stronger, and we make the adherents themselves take a better gamble and a better bargain in that regard. When you want to weigh the debate, wait on those levels. Everybody is still promising rewards. Which one is greater? Pascal's leader.
Thank you very much.
Three basic things you are getting from me: clarity, distinction from our opening, and positive matter. Clarity because you've heard a lot of theories. I know if you are bamboozled, let me simplify it for you. What does each team need to defend in order to win the debate today? Government needs to defend the overall goodness of a world in which your pastor has been telling you and generations before you that your only reward to achieve some actualization in religion is in heaven. That is government's burden. Up is to defend the overall goodness of a world where your Bible and your pastor have been telling you for generations that your reward for living as a good Christian is long life and rich prosperity. What that looks like is goodwill, progress, advancement in society. That is the burden, and that is why we place above our opening going to distinctions and why that's something that is very important. OO argues on the premise that the state of religion in status quo is bad, and that is why their religion or their status, their preference or their word is good. This is why that can be the comparative in the debate. Status quo, like Fattaw tells you, is a world where both comparatives in the debate exist. What that means is that in status quo, the Bible is telling me that if I'm a good Christian, not only is my salvation assured, but God will bless me for me to be a rich person. That can be the comparative debate, the argument, and all the arguments are premised on. What this motion demands is an interrogation of a world where you pick one reward, where for all eternity that has been the world that you are preaching and why that is good. The reason why they lose is because they miss that premise. But next piece of clarity: no world can guarantee that the reward they promise can be achieved. That is why even in status quo and in their world, they can't guarantee that when you die, you are going to heaven. Neither can they put the burden on all to ensure that when people join their religion, they will get rich. What then becomes the contention in the debate today is the utility of preaching the narrative that if you are in up and you are in up, please be quiet. If you are in up's world, and the narrative of you getting rich is a good thing, why that is good for religion, why that is good for the individual themselves, why that is good for society. Something I don't get from my opening, the distinction from them and why you win over them. But why is something that is very important? Moving on to the analysis you get from us and the positive matter. First of all, you get arguments on the burden that the world of their religion, their world put on the inherent or the adherent that Prosper talks to you about and society at large, but also what that means for the religion itself. Why is something that is very important? In our world, argumentation on why the burden is something that is wrong. In our world, the metric for good or bad in religion is usually most often exists on a spectrum. That is why Prosper tells you that in their world, because you can't measure how good or bad you are performing, there's a huge uncertainty. But why is that something that is bad in their world? What that means is that people or religious leaders are able to manipulate that uncertainty to twist whatever adherence that they want these individuals to adhere to. Why is something that is a problem? Why is that something that is solved in our world? What happens mostly is that religion puts that burden of assessing that uncertainty on the individual and their parent. Why is something that is bad? Under the assumption of something that is not realistic, what that means is that to be able to assess your progress, you need a reference point, which is the pastor. What that means is that in our world where you provide them materialistic gains that they can assess their growth and their advancement by, it provides them a better world for them to want to opt in, because my evaluation as to my growth in the religion is not dependent on what opinion tells me in his church. What that means is that there is no possibility of manipulation of advancement. That is an exclusive benefit that will make someone want to even buy into a religion in the first place. What that means is that that person, once he's bought into it, is more likely to adhere to your doctrines and make society a better place, because he believes that that is something that would make him get rich and something that would make him survive. But second analysis on why this gains more traction, why this is something that is important. Materialistic benefits are things that inherently, like they tell you, you need them to survive, you need to thrive in society. What that means is that if people put that value on it, they are more incentivized to opt into a world that tells them that if they do this, they are going to get it. Even if they don't get it in the end, we'll tell you why that narrative is beneficial. But second argumentation on why this clashes Fattaw's argument on the nature of religion and how it is necessarily dependent on something that is ephemeral or something that you cannot touch. The principle is that religion exists and thrives. Please listen. Religion exists and thrives not because of the belief in God or something divine, but the capacity of humans to ascribe value to that belief, such that they are willing to obey certain rules and standards in order to achieve that thing that they place value to. What that means is that if I believe that I have to achieve this and I ascribe value to it, I'm willing to obey any societal rules and standards to achieve that particular thing. It is not exclusive in their world that, it has to be ephemeral. No. It means that there is an incentive on our part for we to give them something that they can touch, something that they can measure, something that they can use to assess their growth in order to grow, for them to even incentivize to join a religion in the first place. You get that from us, you don't get that from our opening. You place over them, it's very simple. But why is that something that is bad, and why is the impact something that is good? It means that you give individuals, and because religion proposes this narrative of power, we need to empower people to be able to actualize. You give that power in our world to individuals and to evaluate their progress by themselves and assess their growth. But before I continue,
so we all don't argue infinite benefits in OG and C. The problem here is that if it's a narrative, insofar as something else can cancel out that narrative, it becomes extremely difficult for people to believe.
They argue that something else may cancel out the narrative in our world because things like crime, things like science can provide those materialistic benefits. First of all, that argument can't be exclusive, because where in your world a person provides an ephemeral divinity that opposes your divinity of your argument of things that you cannot touch, like where they are satanic cults, where they are occultic societies that project an evil being that you need to believe in. In your world, that thing exists. So it can't be that things can cancel out. It exists on both worlds. What you have to argue and what will be proven to you is the kind of specific utility you get in our world. But what happens in most religions and why that burden is, I've already showed you. But thirdly, in a world of globalization and growing atheism that puts a strain on proving concepts, we think it is bad that you
continue to focus in their world. But fourthly, in a world where you don't get what you want in a world, there is the ability of self-actualization outside religion. You don't get that in their world, even if it means that people actualize on their own and assess their growth. You provide that utility, provide that benefit, you don't get that here. This is what our opinion is.
Thank you very much. Now call on the government to
I'm starting my debate in X, Y, Z. In a world where religion exists on the back of rewards, it needs to give rewards that are 1. Greater and bigger. 2. Exclusive to religion. Upsworld gives a finite reward when weighed against our infinite reward of heaven. Material benefits can be gotten without religion, but heaven is exclusive to religion. Because material benefits can be gotten from capitalism and all the other things that you get. It's not exclusive to religion. Heaven is just exclusive to religion. A couple of things Prosper tells you in today's debate which are very important and the kind of engagement it does in the debate are very, very simplistic. 1. The idea of actors in the debate and how it engages all of them. 3 actors. 1. People who adhere to religion. 2. The world at large. And 3. Religion itself. Let's start first on people and adherence to religion. He says that the afterlife is relevant for a couple of things. The certainty of death that exists, so everybody knows that you are going to die eventually. But 2, that life can be controlled by human beings within, so you can find your ways and means of always being able to generate your income. But for afterlife, you know that you are definitely going to die. That certainty of death means that you know that you are either going to opt for heaven or hell as a religious adherent. What it means is that the uncertainty of you going to hell or heaven pushes you to always want to do good. What that does in our world is that you marginally increase the opportunity for people to subscribe to morality, something you don't get from these guys. That means that you continuously want that to happen. But again, it's also on Pascal's wager. Why is that important? Because 1, you know that there are endless gains to the kind of things you get in heaven. Why is that true? Because people know that infinitely they are going to live in heaven or hell. What that means is that you weigh the endless gains you get from heaven against the finite gains you get from earth. People are more likely to subscribe to things on their people are more likely to subscribe to those endless gains that you're going to get from heaven. We know that those things are more promising in our world. But 3, the blissful idea that you get out of heaven is one that continuously makes you want to subscribe to the kind of things that happen. The reason why Ops case is taken away, even if I don't continue anything, is because all the things they promise science, all the things they promise, do good and get money and all that, are things people can get even if they opt out of religion. That means that they can get from otherwise. The purpose of the debate is to say, how are you able to fast track and how are you able to help promote religion as in what are the purpose of religion? Make people do more good and keep them close up so that they live within religion. I won't give them no opt out of the good things within religion because they know that they can't get heaven if they are going to do bad. In their world, people can easily want to opt out if they are just going to promise them material for two things. One, because the prophet tells you that these are things you can get elsewhere. But two, these are things that they might end up never getting and they know that they cannot get because somebody might continuously want to do, might not get money. What these people say to that is to say, you can opt out, and it means that we are not exploiting them. So I am not getting money, and it means that I move out of religion. Why that is bad is because religion gets an opt out of people. So matter collective action problem, a lot of people start buying out of religion. It is bad for them. But the effect that is, it is not exploitation. Assuming that happens, I've shown you why the opt out keeps on happening. But let me show you why that's more exploitative. Because people subscribe that, the pastor says, no, don't wait, in 2 years you're still going to get money. The imam says, oh wait, you're going to eventually buy a car. The people do not eventually never buy a car, and it means that it's more exploitative. It means that they can attack religion directly. Heaven is assured, they do not see it. It's endless benefits. They are more subscribed to wanting to do those things. What do these guys contribute to that? I really find it hard for the engagement that they give us, right? But this is what they say. They say that for their world, there is no guarantee within our world. So there is no guarantee that you're going to get heaven or earth. That is exactly what Osei says. The uncertainty is what propels people to want to do more. What does he again say to that? He says that you are never certain whether you've done enough bad or good because you cannot wait. Because you do not know where the heaven or earth is hell is going to end up. So that uncertainty propels people to want to do more within religion. Why is that good for religion? Because that's what religion endorses. Morality. It means that we get more morality in that regard, right? But two, it means that for the religious adherents, they get an internal joy for themselves for the kind of thing they're subscribing to. But three, we not give them easy opt out because they cannot get heaven when they're going to corrupt people in that society. How does it impact the world at large? I'm actually looking at the time. How does it impact the world at large in society? Because prophet tells you that because of that not opting out to be corrupt and do other things, you restrict things like corruption and all that, which is better than these guys want again, because of their immeasurability and uncertainty in that regard. Closing first.
Their argument is premised on certainty of death.
Yeah.
In our world, there is certainty of need because you need food and rich.
So given that science would have happened anyways, and people would question the original relevance of religion and the added narrative of them, why would people care about that infinite benefits science has already made them skeptical about?
So let's start with it. First it says that, there is certainty of death. And then there are certainty of heaven, but there is certainty of getting money either way. We've shown you that people end up might never getting money in any way, right? But two, people can opt out of religion and endeavor in other ways and still get the money. You don't give them any propensity to still stick to religion. They can't get heaven anyway. These guys, no, I will say this. This is the line. These guys actually they are sick with their science concepts, right? Why? Because this is the idea. Science can exist anyway. But how does one religion directly contribute to things like science? The best thing they say, they will opt things like science. That's true. But the question is, the things that happen within science, are people going to only get them when they stick to religion? Or can they get them outside religion? The point is that you can, that's what you argue. I don't see how people can only get religion out of science evolutions, out of things. Science will still exist and give us gains. But heaven is something you can never get out of anywhere. Why does Pastor win today's debate? Because the comparative is a world where we promise you heaven and a world where we promise you eternal gains. To show you how people might not get them. They might antagonize and attack religion either way and are exploitative. We give you a better metric when we make people more holier, more moral. You don't give people an opt out to other bad things to get money, other bad things to get heaven because you can't get it that way. Religion enjoys that traction from people because it's going to be better. And the world becomes a better place because people do not co-opt other things that are bad because heaven is strictly for religion.
I'll take the order from the entire bench, so no worries. Pretty much like the way Franco took it, articles you can engage with. Beginning my speech in 3, 2, 1. So panel, like the entire government says and alludes to, religion currently faces a threat of existence and sustenance. To win on this clash then, you need to first determine where that threat comes from, which only OG does, because they tell you that there's globalization, there's science that is drawing people's attention. But to win on that clash, but to win on that clash, the idea is then to solve that threat or to prevent its existence within status quo. But notice the nature of this threat in itself is how religion is being choked out by science, which is based on tangible facts. The growing atheism and globalization, like my partner tells you, is based on the idea of where is your God? Your God does not exist and he's just a social construct. Something you don't get from our opening. Essentially, the reason why judges in every debate round weigh tangible impact over just ideologies is the same reason why people within status quo are going more to atheism and science as compared to religion, based on just the fact that they cannot prove that there's a certainty in their world. Something that CG tried to tell you that is the main reason why people would want this. We think that is inherently bad because the uniqueness of heaven would only exist if people choose to believe that there's heaven in the first place. When they cannot already want to buy into the religion because already they have no reason or incentive to join it because there's no tangible reason or no tangible drawback as to why that religion is important, that heaven uniqueness is useless within status quo. But then, essentially, this already shows you that we win on that first clash because you give people something to point to and something to hold on to within their status quo, within their current situations, especially with things like AI and senses like Elisha rightly mentioned. The point is the fact that you can attribute it to the fact that I can be here today because it is religion that has brought me that far means that people can actually hold accountability to something that has not also exist. Things like the evaluation and like retrospection of how far debate has brought religion has brought me. But most importantly, something that Prosper points out to you is that the debate is not just centered on religion, but on the people that choose to believe in religion. Because not an academic. But then what he does is basically run the same arguments as opening because at the end of the day, their impacts are still on religion. The best impact they get for the people within these religions is that, at the end of the day, the blessings I'm looking to are infinite. They don't show why these people benefit. But then why does it better our side of the world? It's two things. They admit that most of these people are enduring some sort of suffering. Notice that even if they are going through suffering, Fattaw says, engage with this suffering, live with it. At least the idea is at the end goal or in the prosperous afterlife, you don't have that suffering. They don't prove how people are able to live within the sustenance of pain and live within this sustenance to first better their lives or to second have any reason to even believe in this religion regardless of the kind of problems that they exist within status quo. What then happens on their side of the world is they have no reason to want to buy into it. Mind you can't even kill yourself to enter that afterlife early because your religion in itself prohibits you from killing. So at the end of the day, you have to suffer and you have to be within status quo. But then he tells you that the only reason why you will continue to suffer is because religion tells you that the focus is not in your current, but in the future afterlife somewhere that you cannot already prove. What that happens is when my partner tells you that self-actualization is hindered. Let me rephrase it. The quality of life that people live within status quo becomes very limited. They have no incentive to do much better than what they were doing within status quo because their goal is not the future. This is an unfair situation for the people within status quo. Prosper says it is better because that uncertainty will make them do good. I'm unsure as to why religions like tenets tell you that do service, work hard. Let me quote the Bible because I believe most of you already know that. The Bible tells you that work hard for the lazy person is foolish and doesn't succeed in life. I'm unsure as to why these things will make you want to commit crime in the first place. They make it seem like the only good practices exist on their side of the world, which is fallacious in itself. But then secondly, what is the most important burden that religion puts on people that we think it's unfair? And the reason why our side better holds religion first of all accountable and it's principally and justly fair to the people that believe in this religion. On their side of the world, the burden is on you to live a worthy life. And the point is, at the end of the day, whether you reach the afterlife or not, it is your fault and it is the religion. The same Pascal wager that Prosper mentions shows that if I don't get the current status quo and the current benefit that exists within status quo. I've already shown you why the threat of those buy-ins come from the idea that you cannot prove your God and he's non-existent. But on that side of the wall, because you can reference facts and reference like things that actually exist or can relate to religion. Note, even if you can get these benefits from outside the wall, the point is the credibility comes from the religion. So the idea is not that I can get it from elsewhere, but is that religion is the reason why I have it. That is why their engagement on people would leave does not exist, because people now know that the reason why I am rich, the reason why I am healthy, the reason why I am happy is because I am in this religion. Those are tangible things that they can refer to and use as a metric for success within this religion. Something that they don't get on their side of the wall. Yeah. Before I continue.
So we argue that people are going to have the luxury of death, etc., which means that they are going to be born poor, etc. How do they jump the hurdle of believing in a God? Also, how are you different from your opinion?
So we know that if you work hard, you are going to get money, a lot of material gain. So in our world, you can still work hard and get it. What that means then is that the uncertain thing which you fear you might not get is heaven. We present
the point is,
that.
His case is, if you can do it in status quo, why believe in religion? It's basically the idea that if people can tell you that your religion is not tangible, people lose faith within that religion. The difference between that and status quo is that you tell the world that it's because of religion that everything is tangible. Now going on to why we are different from our opening. Opening argues things like, you have to pick one belief, which didn't really make any sense in today's base. But then they say, people will be materialistic, the people have a better opt-out, and they fear that it's not, controlling people is not beneficial. We showed you how, first of all, it's not about whether the fear can control them, but it's to the principal justification as to whether these people deserve to suffer these kind of things on the uncertainty and on the non-existence of these things within their status quo. But second, on opt-out, we recognize how that is better because you can actually measure whether religion is beneficial to you or not. Something that cannot exist, something that they just mentioned in one-liner. Then they say, religion can create wealth. We think this already is existent. But then the point is, they don't recognize how that impacts the notion. We show you how that impacts the notion because religion is directly related to everything that you can measure, and that measurement is the reason why you will continue to believe in religion. Religion will continue to be sustained at the end of the day. Proudly, those are my positions.
Thank you guys.
Senior.